welcome to the EI Cafe with Azeem, where I give late look back at the lives and business of today's most important elements with emotional intelligence. You will learn how emotional intelligence can be a key factor for your success in both personal and professional life. From leadership, collaboration, organization culture, positive mindset to raising kids. You will hear key life lessons and tips from most prominent personalities, business leaders, entrepreneurs, emotional intelligence practitioners, and executive coaches from all over the world. So, sit back, relax with a cup of coffee, and let's get into the show. This is EI Cafe with Azeem. When we think of the sporting world, we tend to think about the gold medals, scoring the last second winning goal, or being an icon to the idealizing fans. It's not often that we think about what happens behind the scene, the hard work and commitment that leads to the moments. But without those hours of training sessions, coach meeting, and thorough preparation, achieving defining moment is something we can only dream about. The same can be said for the business world. The day-to-day running of company, from employees' performance to creating opportunity and consistently looking for ways to improve, are what truly determine the success of business. A very warm welcome to the show, and my name is Azeem Sahir. I am your host, a human capital specialist, a Lego serious play facilitator, ICF certified coach, and an emotionally intelligent practitioner. Here we are again for another exciting episode, a 30 minutes of valuable learning. In today's episode, we are going to talk about lessons from weight room to the boardroom. You did understood the introduction I was making. I'm trying to relate the element of an athlete aspect into an organizational context. In that line, I have a fantastic person. I got connected through LinkedIn, and he was very humble to give me this opportunity to have him on my show. Let me introduce to him. He's often described as one of the most unique and diversified CEOs in the world today. With a marketing and general management career that spanned over 30 years, he's among the leading global experts on business building, marketing, and brand, particularly in emerging markets. He had long and successful career building business and organized across 5 continents for some of the world's leading fast-moving consumer goods companies, including CEO roles with the Procter & Gamble, Coca-Cola, British American Tobacco. He's a professional coach. This is where his expertise coming in this particular episode, having coached national level athletes in the native USA as well as in Nigeria. Philippines, he was coaching Philippines Olympic athletic team at the 2016 Rio Olympic Games. And the award recently he won, the Wellness Visionary of 2019 by Daman Health, and was named the Forbes magazine Middle East as one of the top 50 CEOs. So let me introduce our guests for today. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome James Michael, CEO and member of Board of Directors at Fine Hygienic Holding. James, welcome to the cafe.
Thank you for having me, Azeem. Pleasure to be here.
James, first and foremost, thank you very much for your valuable time you're spending, and it's being a Monday and a working day. So thank you very much.
No problem at all.
So James, you know the topic, right? From the weight room to the boardroom. So the whole concept, right? The whole idea I really want to bring this particular topic is sporting or being an athlete has been a enormous challenges they face to win a gold medal or winning that moment. That's what we see in the front, but at back end, a lot of things goes wrong. And I believe there are a lot of learnings we can take into our boardroom as well with this. So James, the first question I want to pose to you on this particular context, how did you do it, right? How did you go from being a fitness instructor to a CEO? Let's start off with that.
Oh, thank you. It's a good question. I'm a big believer in the concept of serendipity, which means that you don't really know where your life is going to go. And I firmly believe in that. And I was studying psychology and physiology in the US, almost 40 years ago. And all I wanted to do was was teach and coach track for the rest of my life. And that's what I wanted to do. And I was a track coach. I started coaching at my grade school when I was 18 years old. And then I was hired by a school district in Cincinnati, and I coached inner city, mainly African-American kids in Cincinnati at a school system called Forest Park for the next couple of years, all through college. And I learned that, I'm not the great technical coach. I studied track and field, and I know some of the events, but there's many different elements of track and field, from high jumping to running a distance race to race walking. Nobody knows all of it. And so, but my specialty was basically motivating kids, and I learned how to motivate kids, especially at-risk kids, to not do drugs, to not get into crime, to not get into trouble, but to hang with me and run every day and sweat every day, and maybe they could win some medals. And I loved that whole world, and I loved what I was doing. And I wasn't making much money, but I loved it. And to try and prepare for after graduation, I started a company that was doing fitness consulting for companies. Now, this was 1984. This is the beginning of companies even thinking about this concept of a healthy employee is a happy employee, is a good employee. And Procter & Gamble is based in Cincinnati, my hometown, and they're a very progressive company, and they were on the front end of these things. And so they hired me to do fitness consulting with executives. And I basically trained executives to lose weight and to get fit and stress management. And we did different testing with these guys. We didn't just, throw them in the weight room and say, lift weights. I mean, we started with a battery of tests and meetings and understanding what they needed. And one of the tests we did was we measured body fat. And I was measuring this guy's fat one day, and he was like a typical P&G executive. He comes to my office and he's got a suit and tie on. And this guy's like 45 years old, and I'm 21. And I liked these P&G people because they were respectful. I was a kid, and some of the companies I worked with, they would treat me with disrespect, but these P&G people had respect, and I really liked that. And he comes to see me, and then I tell him, okay, for today, I need to measure your body fat, so you got to strip down to your boxers. And he was like a lot of executives. When he's got the suit and tie on, he's pretty hot stuff. When he strips down to his boxers, we find out the emperor has no clothes. And, so he's a bit nervous and he's scared, and I'm pinching all this fat. And as I'm pinching and measuring and writing down the scores, he's babbling away, making small talk. And he suddenly says to me, he says, you know what? I've been thinking about it. You should do what I do. And that was the beginning of changing the rest of my life. And so I said to him, what do you do? And he said, I'm a brand manager. Now, I'm a track coach. I'm a fitness instructor. I don't know what in the world a brand manager is. So I said to him, what is that? And he explains it to me. And I like it. It sounds pretty cool. It sounds really exciting. It sounds like a good fit. And so he sets up some interviews, and I take tests, and I pass the interviews. And I did what I thought pretty well. And they came back and they said, you did good. So now we're going to do a full panel interview where you interview with 3 different people, and we'll make a yes or no decision. So I come in and I interview with 3 different guys in the company, in the headquarters, and they have their meetings and that, and I'm at home waiting. And this is 1984, 1985. There's no internet, there's no SMS, there's no email. You wait for a letter in the mail. And after like 6-7 days, I get a letter in the mail, and I open it up. I'm all excited. And it's one of those standard corporate America letters. It's a classic. So paragraph 1 is kind of a bunch of butter you up, baloney. It starts off, Jim, we loved meeting you. You're so interesting. Your life's so exciting. All your track and field coaching stories. We don't meet people like you. You're very unique and dynamic, and blah, 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 blah. And then paragraph 2 is when they decide they'll tell you the reality. And so paragraph 2 begins with, however, comma, after careful consideration, we've come to the conclusion you're not a good fit for P&G. And they tell me that, they like me, but they don't like me enough to make me an offer. And so that's it. Now, I was raised, you could do anything. You could be the president of the US if you want. And so I was too stupid to basically accept this rejection. So I go to the library and I look at who's the head of HR. And it was this guy named Samuel Pruitt. And I fire this letter off to this guy Pruitt. And dear Mr. Pruitt, interviewing is not a science, it's an art. Your artists are terrible. I want another chance. And Proctor was so stunned that they brought me back again. And
Wow.
the second time they brought me back, they put me in a much more entrepreneurial group, which was food and beverage and the away from home business. And they said, maybe the guys, it's a bit too radical for, we're used to interviewing MBAs all the time. This guy's a bit different. So we'll give them a different group. And lo and behold, in that second set of interviews, they made me an offer.
Mm.
And so I started, I still always kept my foot in the sports world, and I have for the last 35 years, but I started as a marketing assistant in the US, and then, I eventually became a brand manager, and then I wanted to go overseas, and I went to Morocco, and then to Poland, and then to Western Europe, and then the Middle East, and then back to Poland, back to Europe and the Philippines. And I had a long history, with Coca-Cola and then with BAT across all the different countries. And there was kind of three learnings in the tail. Now that I'm, going on 60 years old and, more at the tail end of things. And the first learning is probably the most important, one of all, which is I can coach a lot of things in life. I can coach you how to shoot an ad. I can coach you how to do financial analysis. I can coach how to run a project. All that stuff's coachable. I can teach you how to lift weights. I can teach you how to run 100 meters. I can teach you how to eat. This stuff is all coachable. But what's interesting is the most important thing of all in life is not coachable. You can't coach desire. And desire's got to come from within. And what I had my whole life was a lot of desire. And that desire makes a difference. And if you've got desire, you're more than 50% of the way there. And, the problem today is a lot of people have talent, but they don't have desire. And they don't want to work hard, and they don't want to put in the effort, and they want to be lazy, and they're never going to make, they're always going to lose. And so I started in 85 with all these MBAs, from Harvard and all these great schools, and I beat all of them. The little undergraduate with psych and physiology degree from the University of Cincinnati, which nobody even knew about, won the battle. And it was I was the only guy left standing at the end who made it the CEO. And it was basically because of desire. And so if you've got desire, I want to hear from you. I'd like to hire you because that's what I'm looking for. I don't care. When I get people come to me and they say, my father is blah, blah. I say, I don't give a damn who your dad is. I mean, you're talking to the wrong guy. My dad was dead when I was 23 years old. My parents were gone. I was on my own. You got to build your own life. You can't hang on daddy's shoestrings and hope for the best. I mean, you got to prove yourself in this world. Nobody cares about your daddy. And that's learning one. Learning two is the power of going to great companies like a Procter & Gamble, where they train you. Not all companies train you. Some companies hire you and they just want you to step in and do the job. P&G hires raw talent and then they train the hell out of it. And here's this company that took a guy like me, a fitness instructor, and they turned me into a CEO. It wasn't by luck, and that it was a lot of hard training, and they really invested in me. And I owe the companies, the Coca-Colas, the BATs, the P&Gs a lot. And that's why I always encourage young people to go to high quality companies at the beginning of their career. You can always start your own business, but don't start your own business at 22, when you don't really know very much. I mean, go and lose somebody else's money, learn with somebody else's money, but starting your own business at 22 and then losing everything is not. Go somewhere, practice, experiment, learn, and then do your own thing. And the third is a lesson about life and about dignity. And a lot of people at P&G knew me as a fitness instructor, and some of them treated me good, and some treated me like a piece of dirt. Because I was just a guy working in the gym at the P&G headquarters, showing people how to do an exercise machine. 10 years later, I was their boss. and they had to learn they had to learn a very important lesson of life, which is be nice to everybody, because you don't know who's going to be your boss someday. And I have no respect, because I started at the bottom of a company. I was below the mailroom, and I was below the secretaries, and I was below the receptionists. I was the lowest paid person in the whole company. I understand humility and dignity, and I have no tolerance for people who who disrespect cleaning people in the office, or they disrespect receptionists or secretaries. They don't work for me. I treat every receptionist, every secretary, every waitress with dignity, because I used to be there. And, I don't have time for people who disrespect other human beings because they think they're better. And that, those are the kind of people that I don't want in my company. So that's kind of the story. And I think anybody, the real lesson in the story, that if you put it all together, is that anybody can achieve anything if they have desire and if they really want to go for it. And that can be any of your listeners who are doing anything. There's nothing stopping you except yourself. And if you're prepared to put in the time and the hard work and take the risks, you can have a life beyond your wildest dreams. Azeem, there's three ways your life can turn out. Everybody has dreams. Everybody in the world has a dream of how they want their life to go. The reality can come in well below your dreams. It can be a lot worse. Let's take as an example, anybody in prison today. Go to the prison and say, when you were a kid, did you dream about being in prison? And they would say no. Nobody wants to be in prison, but through their choices that they've made of their own free will, they're in jail. And so their life has turned out a lot worse than they had dreamed when they would lay in bed at night. That's group one. And I hope none of your listeners are in that group. Group two is life doesn't turn out the way you thought, but it turns out close. This is how most people end up. You don't marry the girl or the guy you wanted to marry, but you marry someone that looks like them. You don't live on the street you thought you're going to live on, but you live a couple streets over. You don't have the job you thought you're going to have, but you have a job similar. Yet life comes in close. It never comes in the way you want, but it comes in close. And that's how the majority of people end up. The third group is a very big group, and that's where I consider myself. You have a set of dreams in your life, and then your life completely exceeds your dreams. It's much better than you ever thought it was going to be. And it's through a series of choices and personal traits that suddenly, my dream was to live in Cincinnati, Ohio, the rest of my life, coach and teach and make no money. And I ended up being a CEO and going all over the world and seeing the world. I never would have dreamed this would happen. And it's through choices and through your own motivation, your own desire, that life goes beyond what you thought. And so you can be in that third group, but it's not easy, and you have to take the right risks and do things.
Fantastic. I can just feel the journey you have gone through, James. Before the next question, I just want to ask you one thing. If you have written back to that head of HR at P&G at that moment, whom do you think you will be here now?
I wouldn't be here at all. You wouldn't even probably know who I am, because P&G is an undisputed great place to train raw talent. I was a 22-year-old raw talent. There was no better place for me to go than a place that makes you better. And so by the time I was 23, I was dramatically better than 22. By the time I was 24, I was dramatically better than 23. That's what P&G does for you. And that's, you see lots of people. I see them all the time. They do the same job year in and year out. They're no different at 40. They're no better at 40 than they were at 20. In fact, they're probably worse because they've slowed down in their health. Maybe health has gotten worse. I mean, I'm better now than I've ever been in my life, and I'm 58 years old. So
I think, James,
that's the power of investing.
Yeah. So that desire shows, that you were talking about the being that you have the desire, that burning feeling inside to go and do whatever you want. That itself shows, I think you are here and talking to you. I think absolutely fantastic. So my next question, Jim, in that line is, does your background in sports help you be an effective CEO?
Oh, it's beyond a shadow of a doubt. I'll give it different examples. The key of anybody is about leading people and getting people to follow you and following a vision. When I entered P&G and I saw the different brand managers that were leading businesses, I was already better at managing people than any of them were. And I was a kid. Now, I obviously had to work a few years to become a brand manager myself, but from people leadership skills, I used to look at some of them and just shake my head. And the reason is that I had already been for 4 years leading 200 kids to listen to me and not do drugs and not engage in criminal activity and not get in trouble and come and listen and sweat and maybe you'll win a gold medal, and maybe I'll help you get a college scholarship. I mean, the whole concept of leadership around visioning and building a picture of the future. I used to stand in front of my kids and I would say, going to jail doesn't have to be your life. If you listen to me, I will get you a college scholarship and I will change your life. And they would buy into it. And, you know, and I would see these leaders, like, and it's not just P&G, it's anywhere. They were pathetic at motivating people. And so I was way ahead just by being a coach. You know, I was way ahead in how you deal with issues and things like that. I'll give you an example. I can tell a competitive athlete in the workplace from a non-competitive athlete in a matter of seconds, because you learn these unlearnable. You can't learn this in a classroom. Let's take the skill of working with others, working in a team where everybody has a role. There's no better place to learn that than on a playing field. I mean, goalies in football don't score goals, and they know that. So they accept their role. My role is to prevent goals, but I don't get to score. I'm not a striker. I'm a goalie. You know, sports people learn about roles, and many people in life, they never learn about roles, and then they want to do everything, and they're upset they don't get credit for everything. And you have to explain to them, you know, it's clear you've never played a competitive sport. Team sports is all about role playing, and everybody has a role to play, and you do your role better than anyone else. The second is results orientation. This is the biggest one of all. Last week, we gave out bonuses for 2020, and some people didn't earn a full bonus. Do you know what some of them said to me? So they knew the rules. They knew what they had to do to get a full bonus, and they didn't deliver. But then when you give them the partial bonus, what did they say? I worked so hard. I should get the full bonus. I just shake my head and I say, you've never played a sport in your life. This is the place. And then he says, well, I know I didn't win, but I worked so hard. I should get a gold medal too. I mean, we would laugh at this guy in a second. We'd say, if you want a gold medal, you got to win the race. You didn't win. You came in 10th. And you never see an athlete whining and saying, I came in 10th, but I still should get a gold medal anyway. I want a gold medal for effort. You know, these folks that have never played, they have never played these kind of competitive athletics. They don't understand results orientation. They measure performance based upon, effort and activity. They don't understand if you don't deliver, you don't get paid. And they've never learned that because they were never on a playing field. See, in a playing field, you learn that. You see other people get a gold medal and you get a silver, or you get a bronze, or you get nothing. You learn. And so there's so many life lessons that come out of sports. And you know, I had a talk the other day with the Philippine Olympic group, the Olympic committee, and I was doing some training with them, and they asked me a question, would you prefer to hire athletes over not? I said, look, all things, let's take a theoretical situation. If all things are equal between two candidates, everything is the same, and the one athlete was a competitive athlete and the other one wasn't, I would absolutely hire the competitive athlete, because they've learned additional skills on self-discipline, on results orientation, on working together as a team, as an integrated team. They've learned skills that the person that's never done it probably hasn't learned. And when you take people, especially at an Olympic level, I'm working with multiple people now that are going to Tokyo, including the 2016 gold medalist in pole vault, Tiago Braz. And you say, how many people travel packing their own food privately because they want to watch their weight and keep their body perfect? This is the price that they pay. And then I've had other athletes who say, I want to win an Olympic gold. And I say, okay, fine. Are you prepared to pay the price? And then they come to practice and they're holding a bag of fast food. And they've got French fries. And I say, well, it's only one meal, coach. And I say, look, you know what? In the top of the world, like the Olympics, there is no cheat meal. There's no cheat meals. It's 24/7 on. And if you don't have the discipline to do that, then you're never going to win. And these people like Tiago, they are 24/7 dedicated. And that's why he wins. And that's why he's got the Olympic record. And that's why he won the gold medal. And he's the reigning Olympic champion. You see the difference, the discipline, the self-control, the ability to walk away from temptation. You put a piece of chalk in front of him. mean, even when I was training athletes and working with athletes, 30 years ago, we used to put chocolate chip cookies on the guy that had to lose weight. When he would sleep at night in the training camp, we would put chocolate chip cookies on their chest.
Mm.
And they would lay there sleeping, smelling the chocolate chip cookie. Why did we do that? To train them to fight temptation, because you can't shut down the world. There's always going to be chocolate chip cookies. And if they ate a cookie, they were in big trouble. They were running all day, and they had to sit there and smell the cookie and fight the temptation to eat just one cookie. This is discipline. And how many people don't have any of that whatsoever? And then they wonder why they're not successful in their career. They wonder why they don't, other people pass them by. It's always back to the intangibles like discipline and work ethic and all that. It's not down to who you know. And people always want to blame other things. Like, oh, they know someone. That's not why people get promoted. I didn't know anyone. My parents were dead. I climbed to the top of FMCG Fortune 100 companies with no connections. No connections, no friends, none of this. I wasn't, it had no reason, no special treatment at all. It was because you work harder than someone else and you have more discipline than someone else. And, that these are important attributes, and they don't just serve you, having discipline in life doesn't just serve you in sports. It serves you in life. It serves you in your job. And so all these are teachable on the playing field. That's why I believe sports is an important part of any school's curriculum. That shouldn't replace academics, but kids need to also learn sports.
And like the skills, like what you said, that the dedicated commitment, the self-discipline, I think it automatically comes with the element of, being in the sporting arena or on the field. I think those are the things, because I remember when we in our country, in Sri Lanka, when we go, like they always ask, have you done any sports? But the question is, now do they ask that question is one of the question I have in my mind when they go to the panel. Because I'm agreed with you, Jen, because it brings the whole set of arena. And because when we go to facilitate certain training programs, we talked about self-awareness, discipline, being confident, that commitment, what you need to drive. If they had the playing field, they had that experience there of being an athlete or sportsman or sportswoman, I think automatically they will get that in their bloods and DNA. That's what I am believing in that. So, James, let me ask you this: are you still coaching athletes?
I'm still working with a couple of elite athletes, 2 Olympians in track and field that are both qualified for Tokyo. One is Ernesto Biena from the Philippines, who just won last night another competition in Europe. And then Tiago Braz from Brazil, who we're mainly helping them on diet and conditioning. I mean, I'm coaching these guys on other stuff, especially the mental side, and sports psychology and how to handle stress, especially, people like EJ, Ernest Obiena, who is, he's now getting used to the TV cameras and the press conferences. But this is all, for many Filipino athletes, that whole area is intimidating. They're used to being in competitions where there's 20 people in the stands and there's no TV cameras. Then they go to these stadiums in Europe and there's thousands of people in the stands and there's TV cameras everywhere on. It's intimidating. It's intimidating. Say, wow, this is the big time. And they're meeting other athletes who they only used to see on TV or on the internet. And so psychology plays a big part in that, of how they manage the stress and how they stay focused on positive visualization as they're preparing to vault.
So, James, before we're almost coming to end our conversation, I just want to touch on the wellness part of in the corporate aspect, because that has been a biggest concern. Everybody's talking about wellness, right? What would be your take?
Well, I think, look, we made a pivot to wellness and fine hygienic holding in 2018. We did it long before the pandemic, because the data was clear that wellness was a top 5 trend for the year 2050. I mean, the world is not getting healthier. Despite advances in technology, we're not getting healthier. And life expectancy, if you already lived to age 50, life expectancy was not extending. And in fact, in some places, it was going backwards. I mean, today's children are less fit than any children in any generation. And there's many factors. There's a horrible diet. that so many people eat now, and full of carbohydrates and processed foods. And then you have on top a lack of activity. I mean, when I was growing up, all I did was want to go outside and play basketball. Now everybody sits with their phone and plays some kind of game, or they text. I mean,
that's the end of episode number 24, the final one for season 2, from weight room to boardroom. It is about having the desire, commitment, dedication, and discipline to achieve, which you need to inculcate to win. Every athlete has a desire to win a medal, and he or she does work hard towards it. Same message goes to those who are in the corporate arena. Life is too short. Take those risks. Get uncomfortable to grow, to win, and get into that boardroom. I believe this conversation was very useful. My special thanks to James Michael Lafferty, CEO and member of Board of Directors at Fine Hygienic Holding UAE, for spending his valuable time in the cafe. With this episode, season 2 of EI Cafe with Azeem comes to an end. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all my guests who checked into the cafe and shared their knowledge and experience with us. Stay tuned in for the season 3, where I'll be hosting another group of leaders, entrepreneurs, coaches, and EI practitioners with some interesting topic. EI Cafe with Azeem, a 30 minutes of valuable learning. Keep listening, keep learning, and keep improving. So that's it for another episode of EI Cafe with Azeem. Thank you so much for tuning in, and it's really appreciated. Please subscribe to the show so you get an update on my next episode. Write a review to the show and leave a 5-star to the show. Please do follow me on social media, Azeem Sahil. And do write to me what topic and from whom do you want to hear it from, where I will try to get them on board for you. Till I meet you on another exciting episode, checking out of the cafe, my name is Azeem Sahil. Stay safe and God bless you.